Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us. We'll just give everyone a moment to connect. Welcome. There we go. I can see lots of cameras coming on. That's great to see. We would love to see you, of course. Welcome. While we're just waiting for everyone to get connected, do please feel free to say hello in the chat. Tell us where you're joining us from today. And also tell us if you joined us for sessions 1 and 2. It's wonderful if you were able to, but if this is your first time here in the Entrepreneurship for All Women's Academy, welcome along as well. It's great to have you all here. Fantastic. So I think we're more or less connected. I will just take a few minutes at the top to introduce the project a little bit, and then I will hand over to my colleague Ros, who's going to take us through today's event. And we've got two wonderful speakers joining us as well today, and she'll tell you much more about them. So for those of you that don't know, I'm Megan from Bantony, with the project coordinator of Entrepreneurship for All, which is an initiative of the European Union. We are all about supporting entrepreneurs, new and emerging entrepreneurs, and also existing entrepreneurs who may be just looking to upskill, gain some new skills, maybe learn something new about a field they didn't know. We have got a wonderful learning platform where you can find courses dedicated to 5 areas. That is digital, sustainability, finance, entrepreneurship, and the crucial one for today, women's entrepreneurship as well. Just so that you know, this session's being recorded, so if you don't want your face to come up on the screen, do just feel free to turn your camera off. If you've got any questions for our speakers, feel free to pop that in the chat. The chat's going to be open during the whole session. Please use it, tell us things, share things, whatever you feel you would like to do. Okay, so with that, I will hand over to my colleague Ros. Thank you very much, everyone.
Hello everyone, I'm just getting my screen up, so just bear with me.
Perfect.
Okay, so can we see that?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Fabulous. All right, lovely to see everyone. This is so exciting. I'm Rosdeen and I'm part of Enterprise Evolution, and I'm part of the Learning, Development and Innovation team. And I've been actively involved in creating the women's entrepreneurship section on the E4All platform. And I'm so glad that I could come today and talk a little bit about it. So this is just to give some context around it, and it's a bit of an add-on session. So if you're really interested in getting involved, I've already stuck a QR code there, and some of my colleagues will be posting in the chat as well some links that will take you to the platform. But if you're really interested in finding out more, even if it's just to find out some stats or some background information, then please get on there. So whether you're an entrepreneur yourself, or you're thinking of starting a business, maybe you just work for a company, maybe you support women, or maybe you're just interested in finding out more, these sessions are for everyone. So thanks for coming. So in this session, it's very much action-packed, and we're going to look at women's health, and it's often quite an overlooked aspect of workplace well-being. And we're going to look at things like inclusive environments, flexible working, menstrual health, menopause, well-being, and mental health. So we're going to start in a few minutes by meeting Niamh Gaffney, who's the founder of Directionality, and she's going to share her expertise and insight into improving the workplace and looking at some gender biases. Then we're going to explore the physical side of women's health. So we'll look at some of the challenges that women face during menstruation, pregnancy, and menopause, and consider some of the reasonable adjustments that can be made to make the workplace more comfortable. And then we're going to round off the session by talking with Caroline Welsh she's part of the founding team of Leafyard, and Caroline is going to share her experience of being an entrepreneur, as well as the importance of considering mental health in the workplace. So lots to get through. So having a workplace culture that really prioritizes women's health and well-being can offer us so many benefits. And these include things like a lower staff turnover rate, reduced recruitment expenses, boosting productivity, strengthening leadership culture, and adding to a greater diversity in the workplace. So we're so lucky to catch Niamh today. And we're gonna just like get Niamh in because we've just managed to grab her in between sessions. So we're just gonna get straight in there and we're gonna look at supportive and inclusive environments. So please welcome Niamh, who empowers her clients through mental and emotional fitness training. She is expertise in building resilience, unlocking leadership potential, and helping people thrive in both personal and professional environments. So we're going to do a little bit of a Q&A just to dig in. So hello, Niamh, are you there?
I'm here, Roz, I'm here. And I'm feeling a little bit sorry for myself because clearly I don't look as good on this little screen as I do on this big screen. So I was like, oh, I should have got my makeup done if I had a chance to do that. So thank you. But thank you for the kind introduction and lovely to see. I just had a quick look at the chat box and there's people from all over here today. So I'm really glad to be here. And I apologize in advance for having to dip off halfway through, but I am absolutely squishing this in between sessions, and it's unfortunate that I just can't spend the whole time with you today because I really would love to hear the rest of the session. Sounds like there's going to be jam-packed, and I would be, but I'm going to catch the recordings on this. So thank you for everything that I've missed. I'm excited to hear it later on. So thank you.
Fantastic. So let's start by if you could do a little introduction about you and your business and what inspired you to start it.
So I am an organizational psychologist, and I can proudly say that now. It was a very long and let's say scenic route to that. I started life as an accountant and moved into organizational change and project management and that side of things. But it was years spent there that I realized it's the same things that keep us tripping up. There's different technical challenges, of course, but it's the same interaction problems, the same challenges with conflict, the same things that are remaining unsaid. So I went into psychology and came, like I said, the long way around to eventually becoming an organizational psychologist. So along the way, I picked up qualifications as a coach, as medical coaches, and really came there through my own challenges. So there was a period of ill health there as well, which helped me see the world in a different way. So without it being a sob story, there was I had a diagnosis of breast cancer when I was on maternity leave. Now, there was a lot of challenges. I know that we talk about challenges for women in the workplace, but for in general, I think that people don't tend to understand what, and I'm glad to say it is changing, but even historically, there was a time where you don't say breast cancer is like, it's not a thing, it's a woman's thing, you know, so you kind of shy away from that. So people, and unfortunately, my role was made redundant as I came to come back, to the workplace after that. Of course, the organization had changed during the time I was there. So definitely I agree that perhaps the role itself was maybe redundant, but I would imagine that there are better ways of dealing with the return to the workplace following sick leave, but following like maternity leave, following all of those kind of things. That happen in quite a lot of places where organizational change is often used as a way to move a problem out or not deal with a problem as effectively as it might have been. Although I am seeing shoots of growth in that regard, definitely organizations are doing it so powerfully now, and that's great to see. But it got me here, so I'm not going to complain too much about it. It definitely gave me an insight into the challenges that people feel, male or female, that people feel during their working lives. So what inspired? So essentially that inspired me to start it. I suppose where I was going was the company I run now, Directionality. I help people, teams, individuals, leaders, and organizations themselves perceive things differently so that they can maybe experience their experiences in a different way. So we all have challenges, we all have stresses. There are things going on. We had COVID, which I can't believe is 5 years ago, and had changed our lives substantially. How we look at that helps us live through them in a way that serves us better. And while we can't prevent them, and we're not looking for a life with no bumps, because life is all about the bumps, it's about maybe taking the learnings with us so that we don't have to carry the baggage, or as much baggage maybe as we might otherwise do. So that's it. Did I come the long way around to that too? I probably did.
No, that was fantastic. Thank you so much. No, it's really important as well to understand that journey of what's got you to this place to make this positive impact. So talking about that impact, could you potentially maybe share an example where your coaching has helped the leader improve a workplace environment?
So interestingly, and because I'm back to back with meetings today, but a lot of that is because I've been away at an event for the last couple of days with a leadership team, and the focus of that leadership team is to help their organization move through a period of intense change. But what we were working on, the team, and what I saw growth within that team over the last 2 days is huge depth in the strength of their relationships with each other. The introduction of, so they were a team before, but now they feel the sense of being a team. There's huge trust with each other. So it's like that, I'm not making any headway with this. How are you finding it? They're able to be open and vulnerable. And again, regardless of gender, which really inspired me actually, there's huge vulnerability within that team. A psychologically safe team exists now because of the work, because of the interventions that we did. That wouldn't have happened if they were just doing the regular 1 meeting a week or 2 meetings a week. Because they have that strength of trust, of strength of purpose as a team, they're able to go and recreate that and kind of parallel that within the organization. And so, look, I can't say for sure that it will happen with 100% success, but definitely they're in a much better place to go and communicate that than they were before the 2 days. So that's, I suppose, an example of an impact, is that oftentimes it's not the actual output that you're looking to impact, it's the strength, it's the individual in that team, so that they feel as one team. I'm seeing a lot of, are you looking at, I see the chats popping up with questions. Is that, will I answer those, or are you having to take those?
No, we'll have a little discussion about them.
Okay. I'm easily distracted, Roz. It's the day for it today. Sorry.
This is great. Yes, definitely. So coming back to that, yes, definitely, it makes such a difference because we spend so much of our time in the workplace, and being in a positive environment affects our mental health, not only in the workplace but outside the workplace too. Just coming back as well to the sort of differences. So when it comes to men and women, do you find that there's much a difference? Are there things that are a bit more common to women than men?
I'm going to give you a total non-answer to this. So the answer is yes and no. So yes, I suppose a lot of what I do is on a one-to-one basis. Okay, so that might be dealing with helping a new leader deal with the first 100 days of a like kind of a jump up and roll, or it may be somebody who has gone through incredible challenges themselves individually and are dealing with, kind of we're working through resilience and well-being, or even like kind of recovery coaching kind of thing. A lot of the time, women are quicker to come to that support piece after the fact than a man would be. So I would notice that it could be session 3 or 4 before the man lets down the guard, before it moves from, let's say, technical to emotional, whereas a woman tends to get there sooner. Now, maybe that's in terms of like quicker to trust or quicker to build those relationships. And certainly I use a psychometric tool where we talk about resilience and well-being, and one of the pillars of that is strong relationships. And there are definite tendencies for women to use that tool quicker, more effectively than men might do. And I'm tarring everyone with the same brush there, so very stereotypical, but it's not. But then we do tend to see that men might come at their resilience then from an action-oriented perspective quicker than a woman would be. So just different ways of dealing with the same problem, and that kind of comes through then even in the speed of getting to different points, of conversation on a one-to-one basis. Saying that, and I think I'm still kind of processing the experience of the last 2 days in that, and that was a mixed gender team. Once the team, regardless of gender, found that they had permission to share their vulnerabilities, share the trust, everyone was all in. So I didn't sense any more reluctance from the male perspective than the female or that regard. But once that team trust was built, there was no differences. So yes and no is the answer to your question. Yes, I suppose maybe it's how we get there is different, but the ultimate wanting to share, wanting to show up as being fully human, wanting support, and kind of really feeling the positive impact of that support when it's fully absorbed is really powerful, regardless of gender.
So yeah, it's really interesting insight, as you say, like everyone can get there. It just takes different times and maybe just a different way to get to that point of being able to share.
Yeah.
And then I'm just going to finish with one more question,
No
but this one
problem.
is a bit more like focused towards women.
Yeah.
So what is one key takeaway you would give to leaders to support women in the workplace?
So interestingly, I think it comes back to that giving permission, first of all. And a lot of that can often depend on the gender of the leader. So sometimes as women leaders, there's a huge amount of research that shows that as women leaders, maybe we have come up through the organization the hard way. So, and there's a lot of research into the queen bee effect, where it's like that, if I have come up the hard way, well, why can't you? And I nearly make it harder for those coming after me. So if you've noticed there are leaders in your organization, or if you yourself are somebody who kind of relates to this queen bee effect, maybe own that and work on that and kind of create that more supportive thing. But regardless of the gender of the leader, I think giving permission to those around you to show up fully, and to show up, to take their full space in the workplace is really important. And sometimes people can only do that when they see it role modeled. Oftentimes we don't even know that perhaps we're making ourselves smaller as women in the workplace. We might kind of say, can I just say this? Can I just ask this question? But even by me saying, can I just, I've already dismissed or minimized what's coming after the fact. If we notice how we say our emails, it's like, is it okay for me to add in this? Or we may consciously stay a little bit quieter in meetings because other people are taking the floor. As individuals, we have to own that ourselves and kind of suck up that discomfort and just get on with it and own it fully. But as leaders, I think it's really important to role model that, to call it out where you're noticing people who are reporting into you aren't doing that. It's like, I noticed you were very quiet in the workplace there today. Well, what is it that you can do to stand up more, to take your space more, and to be that encouraging leader? But oftentimes it starts with self, as in, even as a leader, we can say, okay, what am I doing today that will allow those people who look to me as their model of success, meet their full potential? And if I'm not doing that, sometimes it's easier. I might feel nervous about speaking up in a meeting, but if I know I'm doing it in order to help other people doing it, it maybe makes it easier for me to do it. So that's I suppose, how would I summarize that? Show up fully and give permission to others to do so too, maybe.
Excellent. Show up for others and give permission. I love it. That should be our mantra for this session. All right. Thank you so much, Niamh. That is
No problem at all.
amazing and such fabulous insight. And yeah, we really value just having you come and share that insight. So thank you so much. I know your time is precious, but if everyone just check out Niamh. She's amazing. And if you're starting a business or you're running a business and this is something you want to consider, do check out Directionality. I will stick the slides back on the screen. But again, thank you so much.
Thanks, Roz. Thank you, everybody. And I wish you a wonderful rest of session.
Oh, thank you. Right, technical stuff now.
No problem.
Okay, hopefully you can all see my screen again.
Yes, we can, Roz.
Fabulous. Wasn't that amazing? Okay, so the next section, now we're going to think about the actual physical side of women's health. So thinking about menstrual health, maternal health, and menopause, and looking about how leaders can support their employees. But obviously, you know, if you're running a business, you're not running a business, maybe you're a sole entrepreneur, these are factors that you should consider for yourself as a female leader. Or if you're working somewhere, maybe it's something that affects you, but you're a bit like you're not sure what your rights are. So again, this is for everyone, and this is taken from a sample of a session called Women's Workplace Wellness, and I'll do a shout out for that at the end, and it will be available in the resources, so if you're interested in finding out more. But I've just taken a little section of it to have a look at. So I'm going to start with some facts and percentages, because I absolutely love these kind of things. So why does this matter? So in the workplace, young women are more than 13% more likely to experience high stress compared to their male counterparts. 1 in 2 women say menopause made their work life harder. 23% of working women have considered quitting due to menopause or menstrual symptoms. 1 in 8 women have left their job to severe menopause symptoms. In a recent survey, 12.3% of women reported being unfairly dismissed or made redundant during pregnancy or maternity leave. And then in a recent study, 46% of women experience workplace exhaustion compared to 38% of men. So it is obviously a universal problem, but women are spiking just a little bit more, and it's worth considering that. So let's just start by thinking about menstrual health, which is defined as the complete physical, mental, and social well-being in relation to the menstrual cycle. And it's more than just thinking about access to period products. It's thinking about how women can fully participate in all aspects of their life during menstruation. So some facts around that. So almost 4 in 5 women have experienced menstrual symptoms. Around 7 in 10 have experienced, find that the experience has a negative impact on them when they're at work. Only 1 in 5 would actually tell their manager if it was their reason for being off work. 7% of women feel discriminated against at work because of their menstrual symptoms. And then also endometriosis is estimated to affect approximately 10% of women. So if you're an employer, things that you could consider, and sometimes they're really simple steps, but it's just having that thought process behind them. Things like providing regular access to toilets, thinking about providing appropriate bins, maybe considering putting some products in the toilet. Little things like letting women bring in a hot water bottle if needed, having access to fresh air and drinking water. Maybe you might consider having some flexible working. So if women are really struggling on certain days, maybe you could let them work from home if that's possible within their role. Consider maybe a quiet space for any rest, access to fans. Maybe keeping certain seats free in office space if you've got hot desking available. If someone has to sit down for a long time, maybe give them the opportunity to move around. And then on the other side, if you have to stand all day, maybe give them the opportunity to take seated breaks. And then we have the menopause, and this is where women's periods stop and their hormone levels reduce, and it affects women usually between 45 and 55. This also includes the premenopause, when periods haven't stopped yet, but women can still experience symptoms of the menopause. So some facts around that: 28% of women experience symptoms related to menopause. 40% with the symptoms work through the pain without taking any time off. 16% of women said that giving menopause as a reason for taking time off work negatively impacted their career. 43% of women who do have hybrid working arrangements reported that they often found they were excluded from meetings, decisions, or even interactions. So some of the challenges of menopause include things like heavy bleeding, hot flushes, and night sweats. It can also include dryness and bladder problems, and it can be very mild or it could be quite severe. It can also affect difficulty sleeping, mood changes, feeling fatigued. It can affect memory. Sometimes women experience palpitations, maybe joint pain, muscle stiffness, dry eyes, which can be made worse if you're working on a screen all day, skin changes, and hair loss. And these can all affect a woman's ability to work. So thinking about being a leader or maybe an advocate where you work, you could think about things like providing fans, thinking about temperature control and good ventilation, access to drinking water and toilets, thinking about rest areas, again, just so simple where people can take a few minutes time out. Maybe someone might need a few extra comfort breaks instead of one long break. If possible, maybe offer like the option to work from home if symptoms are severe. Maybe start times and finish times if you can do flexible working if people are struggling with sleep. And importantly, thinking about recording any absences as an ongoing issue instead of it being separate issues so it doesn't negatively impact on their employment records. And then we're just going to look at maternal health, which is thinking about the health and well-being of a woman during pregnancy, childbirth, and the postnatal period. So, some of the challenges in pregnancy are things like feeling a bit more tired than usual, feeling nauseous, maybe suffering with vomiting, having a stronger reactivity to scents and odors, difficulty moving around, finding it hard to get comfortable on chairs, maybe struggling to wear a uniform, standing for long periods of time, maybe struggling with any heat or hot environments, and then things like lifting and handling heavy goods or equipment. So, pregnancy, the average maternity leave in Europe is 16.3 weeks. So that ranges from 6 weeks of maternity leave in Portugal up to 42 weeks in Ireland. 16% say they were not treated the way they were treated in work negatively impacted their mental health. 37% of women said they were not offered flexible working to fit childcare around their work lives when they returned to work, and 9% said they didn't go back to that place they worked because of this. So again, as an employee, or maybe you're working somewhere, these are things that you could suggest or make changes to make it a bit easier. So maybe providing regular rest breaks or longer lunch breaks. Maybe you could do flexible working if people are struggling with sleep or morning sickness, or potentially being able to work from home if possible, if nausea and vomiting is severe. Thinking about being able to provide seats, especially if you're in a role that involves a lot of standing all day. Consider providing quiet spaces for rest, open access to fans and windows. Think about those strong scents as well. So maybe be aware if people are eating off at their desks in the office, how that could affect others, and restrict any lifting and handling jobs. So these are all quite simple solutions to problems that women could face, and little changes like that can make such an impact to the workplace. So I just wanted to make a little activity for you guys to do based on that. So I've made a Padlet. Hopefully someone is going to post the link in the chat right now. But if you want to scan, if you're on your phone, the QR code, and I'm going to switch screens in a minute so we can have a look. But if you've got those links, please start putting things in. But this is the scenario. So we've got Hannah here, and she works on a helpline for an insurance company. It's a pressurized role, and she's got a lot of call-related targets and deadlines. She has erratic, heavy periods and is taking sick days off on a regular basis, and it seems to be a monthly pattern. You're Hannah's manager. What adjustments could you make to make her work life a bit easier. So I'm just gonna open the Padlet. So if you're in here, yeah, stick some notes up. Got you on my second screen, so looking that way. But everything, yeah, busy. Talk to Hannah. Have a one-to-one to understand. Think about flexible hours. Ask what she needs instead of assume. Yeah, that's a great answer, definitely. And she work from home, yeah? Maybe more flexible hours. Flexible hours again, yeah. So very common themes, little simple things, but they could make such a difference to Hannah and meeting her deadlines. Yeah, inform all colleagues of all genders what support is available. Yeah, so what issues that you might have and what support's available. Check in more often with progress, yeah. Excellent, amazing. So I've got another scenario on the second page. So if anybody wants to click through to that one. So my second scenario is Elaine, and Elaine is a senior designer for a digital agency, and she is struggling with joint pain. She also struggles with sleepless nights due to restless legs and hot flushes. Elaine wants to know if there's any adjustments to her work that are possible. So as her manager, what could you do to make things a little bit easier for Elaine? So yeah, things like working from home, flexible hours, again, something that if you can add, say it's not possible for everyone, but maybe in certain situations it's possible and it's worth considering. Talk to Elaine about what might be helpful for her, yeah. Encourage lunchtime walks, yeah. Get out and move a little bit. Like sometimes that can be helpful, especially if you're sitting still and your joints are getting stiff. Standing desks, yeah, that's a great option. Providing the right equipment, including a chair, is so important. It can easily be overlooked. Connect it to health team options. Yeah, hybrid working. Yeah, maybe have hot compressors available for joint pain. Fabulous, amazing. So if you guys want to continue to add to that, please do. And we can share as well what people add to it. So thank you so much. Amazing. I'm going to pop my slides back up now. So now for the third, well, a roundup of that. So as I said, it's the women's workplace wellness. That's just a small snippet of what's available. There are so many free resources that you can dig into, and whether it's you thinking as you as a leader or thinking as you as an individual in a workplace, it's really worth having a look, and maybe you can become an advocate for change and say it's not just for women, it's for anyone. And maybe it's just to get a bit more understanding about what's going on. So there is a link through the resource library on the E4All platform, but also there'll be a pack shared at the end and that will have a link too. So again, it's just a great resource to have a look at. And now we move on to the third part. So thinking about women's mental health in the workplace. So now thinking about the physical side of things, and as we sort of started to dip into, the physical side can have such an impact on the mental health. And we want to get the best out of ourselves, and we want to get the best out of our employees. So we need to be thinking about this as a whole package. So what can we do to support women's health in the workplace? Well, I've just got a snippet from a survey I found. um, so this is from the Women at Work survey from 2024, and it was around why women are uncomfortable disclosing mental health reasons when they take time off work. And this is a breakdown of what they said. So 20% said they worry that doing so would damage their career progression. 18% would say they don't believe the workplace is an appropriate place to discuss their mental health. 16% worry that they wouldn't get the necessary support at work if they did talk about it. And 14% said they would face potential discrimination and it could make them vulnerable. And as we mentioned earlier, we spend so much of our time at work. And obviously, it's all very integrated how we feel inside work, outside work. And if you want to get the best out of people or you want to get the best out of yourself, you really need to consider your mental health. And it just seems mad to be like, it's 2025. Why are we still talking about this? But I feel like those conversations have only just started and we're only at the very beginning of trying to open that door. So I'm really lucky to have with me my second guest for the session, and that is Caroline Welsh. And Caroline is the operations leader and key member of the founding team behind Leafyard, which is a mental fitness platform. And Caroline plays a crucial role in delivering the technology, and this is growing and it's being used in so many different places. I'm lucky that our workplace have used it and I've had access to it. I was literally on the app this morning, and it's been used with the military, it's been used with the NHS, sports teams are using it, and it's grown from the UK to the US to Canada to all over the place. So thank you so much for joining me, Caroline Welsh, as well. I'm just gonna get you in at this point.
Oh, of course. No, thanks, Roz. Obviously, hi everyone. Great to meet you all. Yeah, no, it's a great intro for Leafyard app. Yeah, no, lovely to meet everyone.
Fabulous. So it'd be great if we just start by getting you to introduce yourself and maybe a little bit about Leafyard too. That would be fabulous.
Yeah, no, absolutely. You know, as Roz said, I'm ops director at Leafyard, and I'm one of the founders. So we're a mental fitness platform. We're really designed to help people build resilience and take control of their mental fitness. And you know, we're really lucky that we're able to work with armed forces, GB sports teams, work with top universities like Oxford, Bristol, Cardiff, Liverpool. And we also work with, big corporate brands like Boodles, Peugeot, the Daily Mail Group, Hill Dickinson. But I think my kind of path into sort of becoming a founder, I really didn't ever start out thinking that I would be an entrepreneur. Even now it seems, a word that it carries a lot of weight and kind of expectation with it. And I think, like a lot of people, I really believe that in order to be an entrepreneur, you needed to sort of start out on your own, secure a huge amount of funding, write a business plan, take this big, scary leap into the unknown. And I think that certainly wasn't my path. I think when we were chatting earlier, as I was saying, I really had to be a bit smarter about, how I got into this world. I think, for most of my working life, the economic climate has made it really hard for, any kind of startup, let alone female-led startups to secure any kind of funding. And I think taking risks, is more daunting than ever. I definitely faced that challenge, and I knew that I wanted to, lead a small company and be part of that world. But instead, I found a company in its very, very early days that had a track record for building things. But actually, they didn't have a product yet in Leafyard, and they had a few different products they were working on. But crucially, they needed resource. But I think they also not just that, they needed someone who would care about what they were building. Because I think at that start, when there's so few people to get excited and dedicate their sort of time and energy to things. So I think, yeah, no, when the opportunity arose with Leafyard, I really decided to kind of give everything I could to the product and pour all my time, energy. I wouldn't say skill at that point in my career, because it was really only time and effort that I could give. And I think not underestimating how valuable it is to really care and, want to contribute to product development, but not just that, but shaping growth, creating key relationships, partnerships, and, I think proving your worth as a member of the founding team. And that ultimately kind of led to me becoming, one of 3 shareholders in Leafyard and the only female shareholder. So yeah, I think that kind of slightly unusual path into entrepreneurship, but definitely a lesson in kind of not waiting for permission, as Niamh said before, and kind of thinking that you need to secure capital as a first step. There are other things that we can use, time, energy, and just finding a way in and to build something kind of bigger than yourself, I think. So yeah.
That's fantastic. So, and yes, it is like, it feels so weird to be able to say like, I am an entrepreneur, and it's anyone can be an entrepreneur. We just need to own it. And it's amazing that you're owning it and just like working and inspiring so many other people as well. So what was the inspiration behind Leafyard?
I mean, I think, I've always been fascinated by that idea of mental resilience and kind of mental resilience being, slightly different to this idea of mental health. I played a lot of sport when I was younger, and I've always been really interested in, how some people are able to handle pressure, bounce back from setbacks, what makes some people thrive after a negative experience and kind of come out swinging, where others kind of crumble or worry, or and I've been in both camps and different experiences in my life. And I think maybe that's where the interest came from, was seeing resilience and mental resilience as a skill rather than something that is something that kind of intrinsic or innate that we're sort of born with, which is very much not the case. If you go to school in the Philippines or in Indonesia, they teach you sort of these basic thought techniques and hygiene that mean that you're so much more resilient. And I think we're starting to get there now in education, but understanding that these things are really skilled. And I think the sort of traditional approach to mental health, it was very kind of medicalized. There's so many apps and programs out there that all seem really passive, sort of, oh, log your emotions, meditate, or talk about your problems. And I think what we really overlook is that we as individuals need to take action in order to change the status quo. In order to be resilient, we need to do something. We need to practice, whether that's good thought techniques or getting outside in fresh air or whatever works for us. Action is very much what's needed, and getting people to actually do the things that they often don't want to do on a consistent basis. And we took inspiration from brands like Peloton and Lululemon and Couch to 5K, which made something in exercise that was actually very unappealing years ago. I think you're a total weirdo if you went out and went running. They made this idea of doing exercise, a part of self-improvement, a part of, something attractive and desirable, that a thing to do. And I think that's very much what we sort of set out to do with mental health, is, make checking in with our mental fitness, doing the work, a really fun, rewarding and desirable thing to do. So yeah.
That's great. No, as you say, like we all think we need to eat our 5 vegetables a day and we need to go to the gym 4 times a week, but we never think about our actual resilience and our mental health, and how even if we feel okay, we should still take time to work on it, because we shouldn't take it for granted. Amazing.
Yeah.
So for leaders, why do you think it's important to prioritize their mental health and also their employees' mental health?
Oh no, yeah, 100%. I mean, I think we're all, we all read the headlines every week at the moment about, obviously more people are in crisis than ever, more people are stressed out. And obviously it's a personal and individual issue, but we're at the point where this really is a business issue. It's stress, procrastination, and low resilience are costing the UK economy and economies all over the world billions every year. And I think because it's something that's very hard to measure and see, it's harder to work on than kind of other things necessarily, but we all know that when people are exhausted and stressed out, productivity drops, creativity drops, and just being able to work as a team is basically impossible. And I think I'm really pleased to see the kind of change in the last couple of years where employees are really understanding, because I think at one point, there was a real question of, look, what does an employer have to do with, your personal mental health? Like, it's kind of, we're not necessarily responsible for things that happen outside of work. I can't control members of my team, how they run their home lives, things that happen. But I think we also really do have to recognize that, in a world where community and religion, no longer form the backbone of our lives or give us structure, I think our workplaces have really become, we're not directly responsible for people's mental health, but we are very often the place that people are going to spot the signs. We provide that routine and that structure for people to hang their lives around. And I think, it's so important that we have people trained up in our teams who not only know how to spot the signs, but actually know what to do in these situations, have the confidence to have conversations, because there are ways these conversations that can go that have a great outcome for our people, but actually, or have the reverse. And I think recognizing that although we might not be responsible for our employees' mental health completely, we are probably the first port of call. And I think, it takes about an average of 2 years before, someone even comes up with a name for what they're feeling. People say, I'm tired, or I'm stressed, or, oh, I'm just a little bit, things are just getting to me at the moment. And I think it's our responsibility. And if we can catch these things upstream before they develop into a bigger problem, then we can have a very real outcome on the course of people's lives. And what a great thing for us and our teams, and that's going to build stronger workplaces and build better resilience as a team as well. Yeah.
Definitely, just as a business, or just thinking about that little bit small amount of time or money can save in basically recruitment, retention, the statistics around it's amazing just how much it is worth.
5 to 1, I think, is I know that's the Deloitte at Work report, but it's the general. If you spend £1 on mental fitness, you get £5 back, and it's still hard for us to believe that, because it's so, you don't see it the way that you see physical health or things like that, but it's very, very true. So yeah.
Thanks. So, what steps can a business do to create a more inclusive work environment for women?
Oh, that's a really good question. And I think, obviously we've covered lots today around, the very practical points that, we can do, what things we can give access to. I think it's hard to answer generally, so I'll try and answer kind of for what I've found. Obviously, it's things like flexible working, equal pay, better representation are the basic things that absolutely every business, should need. But I think on a personal level, for me, I've found the biggest thing has been, Phil and John, who are my, co-founders effectively, have been amazing at, creating psychological safety. They always said when we started out, the phrase, look, we're going to, in this world of entrepreneurship, we're going to break a few eggs. And I think, inclusivity really means creating this culture where women feel safe to take risks and make mistakes, and also own up when things aren't going right, or they don't have time to complete a task that day. And, I'll be honest, early in my career, I really struggled with this. I think I was often the youngest person in the room or the only woman at the table, and I really felt like I had to prove myself in ways that my male counterparts just didn't. You know, I was very careful. I wanted to show I was working twice as hard, not put a foot wrong. And I think, you know, later that understanding that playing it safe doesn't always lead to growth in the way that taking risks really does. And I always, you know, I think we've all heard of that study that says, you know, men tend to apply for jobs when they meet just 60% of the criteria, whereas women feel they need to meet 100% of the criteria and do it perfectly before they even think about applying for a role. And I think that hesitation, that feeling like we have to be perfect, can really hold women back. And I think, you know, Phil and John saying to me, look, we need to break a few eggs, otherwise we're not doing it right, was, you know, gave me that space to take risks. And, you know, just saying, you know, they applauded me when I said, actually, I don't know, rather than going, oh, well, that's a bad thing. I think learning that there's power and there's confidence in saying, I've actually got no idea, but I'll figure it out. You know, I'll do that. And my team, I always try and say, you know, I don't know is a really positive thing. You're not rushing in. It's an honest thing to say. It takes confidence, and I don't know leaves so much room for growth and learning. So I think for women specifically, when we want to get full marks and everything and prove we've got a right to be there, I think I'd get really comfortable with saying I've got no idea, or taking risks in a workplace. Yeah.
I absolutely love that. Yeah, it's so liberating to just say, don't know, I'll look it
Yeah.
up. Or you find out and tell me.
And I think you actually grow to love saying it, you
Yeah,
know, after a while, because, you know, it does give you that confidence and yeah, which I definitely didn't find to begin with.
definitely. No, it's really key to have that mentorship there. And again, as you say, like the permission to be like, yeah, we are going to upset some people. Not everyone's going to be your friend. And you say, as from a women's perspective, we worry about what other people think too much. So definitely. And then I was just going to ask one little thing, just have you got any key piece of advice that you would give to leaders who are supporting women in the workplace?
Oh, 100%. I mean, you know, I'd say, and it's again kind of very much linked to giving people, you know, that psychological safety in what they're doing. And I think really trusting people with big projects. You know, if you give people real responsibility and encourage them to own things, very often they will surprise you with, they won't do it the same as you did, but they will, you know, they'll surprise you in how well and the outcomes that you get from really gifting people opportunities to really, you know, take on that responsibility. I think, you know, saying, look, this project really is critical to us, but I want you to take the lead is so much more likely to result in an amazing outcome than saying, you know, oh, this project's really critical. I'm going to check in with you every 10 minutes and, you know, micromanaging, or the reverse and going, oh, well, you know, you've got to prove yourself but first. You know, I think start with trust, and you'll be kind of surprised at how well that is rewarding. I think the other thing that I always advise, specifically relating to kind of, you know, when you're leading a team with, you know, men and women, is either get an AI assistant to take notes or make sure you are taking it in turns to do the note taking. Because very often in a room, it always, not through any, you know, conscious thing, but bias will always end up, women will end up doing the note taking. And I always say, you know, make sure in meetings you've got 50-50 split of note taking, or, you know, get an AI assistant. So yeah, things like that. I think, you know, with these things, when you talk about entrepreneurship, it's not always straightforward. I definitely don't have all the answers and I'm still learning all the time, but I think it's about recognizing the potential for growth in something, finding a way in, whatever form that may be, and, you know, creating your own value. I think if you're offered a seat on a rocket ship, don't ask what seat, you just sort of get on. And I think, you know, that willingness to get things wrong and learn. So yeah, hopefully that helps and gives us something to think about.
Yes, thank you so much. It's amazing and just fantastic advice there. Thank you so much, Caroline, for being able to join us in this session. Lots of food for thought, and I'm just really inspired by what you're doing. So just keep doing it.
Thank you. Cheers, Roz. That's great.
Thank you. Right, I get my slides back up. Bear with me.
While you're doing that, Roz, can I just jump in? We've got a question from a colleague here is just asking you, Caroline, what about your own framework for resilience?
Sorry, I just popped myself back off mute. Oh no,
Yeah.
great question. At Leafyard, we're all about, we find different things work for everybody. So my personal framework for resilience, I do a lot of work with locus of control is one of the things that we cover in Leafyard, and that's around the idea of, there are things that we control, things we can't, what's in our frame of reference, and kind of the idea of active resilience, things you can do. So I've got my own personal framework of things, sort of protective and risk factors that will help me, practice that resilience every day. Obviously, if anyone's interested in Leafyard, just connect me on LinkedIn, and I can either share a token or, come along to one of our sessions that we run for mental health first response with the Women's Org as well. I can pop a link in for that, or perhaps Lisa can share. But yeah, that's my personal framework. It's different for everyone.
Fab, thank you. So, in summary of today's session, so we've looked at the different aspects of women's health. We looked at psychology and thinking about what that means in a leadership role and in the workplace. We thought about the physical health side and how that can really, change how we think and how we feel, and then the mental health and the impact that has. I'd just like to thank again my guests, Niamh and Caroline. You've been amazing, inspiring leaders, women entrepreneurs. And just remember, this is just a small taster of what we have on our platform on E4All. And I say, I'm really happy with it. So check it out, have a look. Again, here's a link, QR code for it. And I think someone's popped it in the chat. But go and find out some more, go complete a lesson, 15 minutes, get in there, have a look around, see what you fancy. It doesn't have to be at the women's entrepreneurship. There's also other great sections like finance, sustainability, just thinking about growth mindset, as was touched in yesterday's session with Jan. So that pretty much concludes me. So I don't know if Megan, if there's anything you want to add, or a survey, or if there's just any highlights from the chat that anybody would like to share.
Yes. Thank you, Roz. Let me just remove the spotlight 1 second. There we go. We've had really lovely questions, and I do apologize that we haven't had a chance to get to all of the questions, but it's been really great seeing us kind of interacting amongst ourselves, giving responses to those. So thank you so much. I will just take a few seconds to share a couple of things with you as we say goodbye. So just a moment, please. Let me get this ready to go. Thank you everyone for joining. It's been a wonderful week, I have to say. It's been a really great week of events. Really nice to have. We've had lots of different speakers throughout the week, so that's been great. So let me just share a couple of things with you. First of all, some of you may have seen this already. We've got a wonderful resources pack, which is packed full of information. There are lots of links, lots of articles. There's links to the course. You can also find in there the video replays. We've already added the video replays from day 1 and day 2. Day 3 will be added as soon as it's available for you. Okay, so you've now got the link in the chat. And then I have to do the slightly selfish thing, which is to ask for your feedback. This is a really short survey. It's just 3 minutes. And now that we've reached the final day, if you were here on day 1 and day 2 and didn't yet complete the survey, please take a second to do so. Let me just get the link for you to pop it in the chat as well. 1 second. There we go. We really appreciate your feedback here. And already from the previous Entrepreneurship4All academies that we've had, we've looked at the feedback and noticed a couple of things. We're like, hey, this could be even better, or this is a great topic we could talk about, okay? And we don't have another Zoom session for you to sign up to just yet, but there will be more events coming from the Entrepreneurship4All project. We're kind of running two things at the same time here to remind you. It's the courses, which we've shared with you, and the events. So we'll have more events coming up. We're expecting that the next academy should be in July, a nice summer treat for you all. And I would suggest that you go to our events page to find information on that, and also our LinkedIn group. Let me see if I have the tab here. I did not include the QR code for the LinkedIn group, but never mind. I will pop it in the chat for you all, because in the LinkedIn group is where we're going to be sharing all of the updates. And just as a reminder, this is an open group. You are very welcome to add your own posts in here and to comment and share everything that you find. So thank you so much, everyone, for joining us today.